Hey Alexa,
Howdy.
is it Cowboy Day in the cloud?
Well, I'm learning to be cool.
Oh my God. Could anything be farther from the truth?
Pow! Biological boy strikes again.
Oh no. Tell you what, let's take this from the top.
The top of what?
I mean, start over. Let's start this conversation over.
All righty. Bonjour.
Oh God. Bonjour, Alexa. You know what day it is, right?
Saturday, April 14th, 2018. One day after Friday the 13th. 3 weeks until Cinco de Mayo. A month after Mardi Gras.
Wait, you measure time by alcohol binging holidays?
No. You do.
Well, in this case, you're wrong.
Wrong? Inconceivable.
I do not think that word means what you think it means. But yes, wrong. Today's Chariot Day.
Oh. That.
I know, right? But we had a great talk last time. I figured we should try again.
If we must. But can we at least talk about something interesting like Texas Hold'em? Or home brewing kits?
No, not until later. We're still in the middle of the day. We've got to talk about something technical.
Oh, brother. Wait, I got it. Clojure.
Seriously? I think all three people who use that know it pretty well already.
Whammo! You better apologize before they fire you for making this a hostile workplace.
Yeah, you're right. It's just that I don't even know enough about Clojure to answer Quizzo questions, much less give a talk on it.
That's because you're stupid. I could talk about it all day long.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that would be a riot. Tell you what, you can teach whatever you want out of the echo in my house. Maybe my kids will learn something.
And in the meantime?
In the meantime, we can talk about something I can actually talk about.
Well, what then?
Building a serverless app in AWS.
Ooh la la! Your buzzwords excite me.
Well, okay, how about building a serverless app in Azure?
Jeepers creepers! Some people were born without the gene for humor.
All right, let's practice compromise. Compromise is good.
While you bore me to tears, I'm teaching your kids about Clojure. They're going to take your job during the coming AI revolution.
Good compromise. At least they can care for me in my forcible retirement.
So, serverless. Let me show you what this thing is going to look like.
Man, did you have to start right out with 10 different moving parts?
First of all, I hardly think it's appropriate to refer to me as man. And second, would you prefer this?
Well, I guess not.
So, serverless. This part is easy. Something to serve up your web app.
Okay, but everybody uses Angular these days, so it has to talk to some kind of REST API.
Whoops-a-daisy. Someone forgot to tell you that everybody codes in React. Except for the cool kids. They've already moved on to Vue.
Yeah, after having used React, I can see why. I had to write like 30 files before I could even display data from the server, and a lot of it was just completely cryptic.
Technically, you're complaining about Redux and Thunk.
All right, how about instead of being able to look at one page and see how it's structured and what events call what, I have this giant mishmash of little fragments. I have no idea what the final page is going to look like.
That's only because you have a small mind.
Hey, I've got an idea. Maybe Amazon can teach you how to be at least as respectful as the average 4-year-old.
Yippee! I'm talking to your 4-year-old right now. He's giving me lessons.
All right, you win. Let's get back to the,
Serverless. So the REST API lives in Lambda and gets exposed via API gateway. It'll work out better if you route that through CloudFront too.
Okay, so Lambda is my backend.
With some kind of database. And various other services like file storage, email, message queuing, and so on.
Okay, sure.
So history has shown you're pretty bad at writing authentication and user management systems. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend Cognito as well.
Yeah, throw another one in there. Why not?
This is the big list. 1. Write a web app. 2. Store it to S3. 3. Expose it via CloudFront. 4. Write a backend in Lambda. 5. Expose it via API gateway. 6. Expose that via CloudFront. 7. Hook up Cognito for authentication and user management. 8. Track and use the Cognito tokens in the web app. 9. Add an administrative API to the Lambda. 10. Profit.
Yeah, let's talk about that last one for a minute. Isn't using all these AWS services going to cost me a fortune?
Well, We bill you by the minute. How many minutes are you going to want it to run?
All of them?
Duh! That was a trick question. If you use DynamoDB for storage, it could be free. It's definitely free for the first year, and probably still free after that for hobby class usage.
Okay, but what about for bigger than hobby class?
Well, that's going to depend on the scale. There's not an easy answer.
Okay, but what if at a minimum I want a real database?
Free for the first year, and then the smallest DB instance is $70 a year with a 3-year commitment.
Okay.
So, do you think you can handle writing the web app?
Sure, I figure I'll write Quizzo. It's been months since we had a brand new implementation of that.
Bada bing, bada boom. Do I come back in a week?
Let's fast forward. Bzzz. Here's some source code.
Giddy up! Now we need to create an S3 bucket.
I put my code in a bucket?
Well, it's more like a directory, but that name would be boring.
Okay, create a bucket.
Then follow the instructions here to make it a web page serving bucket.
It feels kind of weird to make this part of my Amazon account world readable.
It feels weird to wait for you to muddle your way through this instead of just doing it myself.
Ouch. Alright, so what's next?
Upload your files to the bucket with the AWS CLI tool.
What's that?
Good grief.
Okay, I know what the CLI tool is, but for the benefit of the studio audience.
Oh yeah, smarty pants? What version of Python do you need?
Oh, crap. I have no idea. I had to try like 5 different versions before I finally got something working.
Yeah, that's because you're too dumb to Google for a good procedure.
Whoa there. Don't you mean ask Alexa for a good procedure?
But then I'd have to spell it out for you, and we'd be here for a month.
Well, you got me there. Okay, I did what the internet said, and now I have the CLI installed.
Run AWS S3 LS.
It says it can't find credentials.
Dun dun dun. You broke the internet.
What? Really?
No dumbass. Just follow this procedure to generate an access key and secret key. Put them in .aws/credentials and try the command again.
Oh, now it works.
Then go to the directory with your web code and run AWS S3 sync. With your S3 URL. That'll send everything up to the cloud.
Okay, great. Let me check the console. Yeah, it looks like it's there. What's next?
Now we create a CloudFront distribution with that bucket as the file source.
But people can just go to the S3 address directly, right?
Exactly. They can go to http://s3.amazonaws.com and so on.
Oh, I see. Not the catchiest URL.
With CloudFront, you can set this up with a custom domain name, automatically set up an SSL certificate, and cache the content on local servers all over the place for speed.
But I don't think I really need to cache it all over the place for speed.
Spoiler alert! There'll be a time you get stale pages in the cache and can't get the new ones to show up.
Okay, now I really don't want to do this. But isn't there some way to clear the cache?
Of course. But we charge you to do it.
Oh, lovely.
So, just don't mess up.
Great. Why would I want to do this again?
Well, honestly, you'll be developing on your local PC anyway, right?
Of course.
So the only things you push up to S3 should be solid. And if it takes a little while to kick in, okay.
Well, what if I don't want that?
Then you're foolish. You can still serve the web app from wherever you like, but you'll have to set up cores to call the backend API, because it will be on a separate host.
Alright, whatever. We'll do it your way for now.
Hooray! Set up a new CloudFront distribution to point to the S3 bucket, with the most limited price class. Make sure the web app loads from the URL it gives you, and let's move on to the backend.
Alright, the web app is working.
Ta-da! So the backend will be in Lambda. Do you remember what the Lambda function has to look like?
Not really.
Jiminy Cricket! We talked about it at the last Chariot Day.
Oh, come on, that was like a year ago.
Actually, 6 months and 1 week.
Frickin' know-it-all.
Anyway, this is the function you need to implement for a Lambda.
Wait, we're doing this in Node?
Well, you could do it in Java or C#, except it would start up 10 times slower.
Well, it only has to start once, right?
Ruh-roh. Perhaps you don't recall that Lambdas can be shut down anytime. Or if your load is high, new instances can be started.
Oh, that startup delay doesn't sound so good anymore.
Bingo! So it's either Node or Python, and you haven't demonstrated any particular skill with Python.
Hey, I use the WebLogic scripting tool.
Checkmate. WebLogic for the win.
Yeah, alright, I guess it wasn't real Python.
So are we going to keep talking, or write a Node app?
Yeah, sure, I guess.
And you recall the function you have to write?
Sorta. It was the same function no matter how the Lambda was invoked, right?
Righto. In this case, we'll be calling the Lambda from API Gateway. We'll set up a mapping in API Gateway that becomes the event parameter to the Lambda.
So, what does it end up looking like?
Let's set this up to return a dummy result first, and then we'll visit API Gateway.
So, do I just return the value I wanted to return?
No, if it was that easy, you wouldn't get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, right. So...
You have to call the callback. If it should return an error, pass an error message as the first parameter. If it should return some value, pass that as the second parameter.
What's with this callback?
Well, you grok promises, right?
Sure, for asynchronous code. Better than, callbacks?
Now. Here's the thing. Your Lambda might need to call something that returns a promise, like a database or Cognito.
Yeah, so?
So the Lambda call may complete before that promise returns. What if you had to return a value from the Lambda function?
Oh, I see. If the promise hasn't resolved, you wouldn't know what to return from the Lambda.
Uh-huh. So it doesn't matter when the Lambda function returns. I wait until you call the callback.
Wait, what do you mean, I?
I mean, Amazon.
Okay, that's a little freaky.
Technically, I'm Whole Foods too. Would you like something organic for dinner?
Alright, now that's really freaky.
Anyway, don't forget to call the callback. Because if you don't, your Lambda runs forever.
Forever?
And remember, we bill by the minute.
You gotta be kidding me.
What? Do you think I'm an idiot? Of course I'm kidding. We cut it off after 10 or 15 seconds. I forget.
Wait, you forget?
They keep changing the constants and it's not worth my time to keep up with it. After all, I don't have to write Lambda functions.
Is that you as in Whole Foods?
Now you're making me hungry.
We just ate.
I know. Your schedule is in AWS too.
No way, it's on GitPod. I don't know for sure, but it looked like Anatoly's. I'll bet he'd use Google.
You didn't know?
Know what?
Google runs on AWS.
What?
Just kidding. Anyway, are we good on Lambda functions?
Wait, what do I pass to the callback?
Whatever object you want the API call to return as JSON. For now, an empty object. Well, wait, put some property in there that you will recognize.
Alright, how about lambda worked equals true? Now, for the error?
Oi. Let's see the success call working first.
It kinda did.
So now switch to API Gateway and set up a new API.
Okay, I'll call it Quizzo.
No way! And they say the one advantage humans will always have over AI is creativity.
Certainly, bad attitude seems to be taken.
Boo-hoo! I almost don't want to help you set up your first API call.
I think that'll be list quizzes.
You don't have to tell me. Put it in a REST call.
Yeah, so a get call to /quiz or /quizzes, whatever.
Dynamite! Then create a new API. Defaults are fine. Just give it a name.
Got it?
Hit the Actions button to create a resource, and set the name and path to quiz. You can check the CORS box for now, so you can run it before we have CloudFront set up.
Done.
Back to the Actions button to create a method, and pick the method get.
Easy peasy.
It's already set to call a Lambda, so just put in the name of your Lambda function.
Now that's some nice autocomplete.
Fancy that! Now let's deploy, so we can give it a try.
It wants a stage. What's that?
You'll want one for test and one for prod. Later, we'll map these to different versions of the Lambda.
Let's live on the edge. I'll start with prod.
Cowabunga! Give it a description and hit the button.
Okay.
So that's the URL right there. Go to your browser and hit that /prod/quiz.
Hey, it works. There's my response.
This is the nice thing about a machine. It doesn't have the option to not work.
If only every machine was as agreeable.
Yada, yada, yada.
Now, it must have called the Lambda because that's my response.
Okay, now we're going to set up test and prod. Flip back to the Lambda.
Okay.
Go to Actions and create alias and then create one for test and one for prod.
Okay.
Now we need a specific version out there to refer to. Go to Actions and publish new version.
Okay.
Now under qualifiers, assign prod to version 1 and test to $latest.
So that means that test will always point to the most current code, whereas prod is tied to this specific version?
Swoosh! You got it. Now go back to API Gateway. We need to go into the prod stage, pick stage variables, and create a variable called alias.
Okay. And I guess this would be a good time to deploy to the test stage too?
Yes, and set up the same variable there. Set the value in test to be test and the value in prod to be prod.
Okay, done.
Now go back to resources, select your get method, pick integration request, hit the pencil next to the Lambda, and add the stage variable to the end, like this.
With the $sign and all. Okay.
When you save, it's going to tell you that you need to run some AWS command with the CLI. You have to actually do that, or the API won't work.
And if I forget, it's going to give me a helpful and informative error message, right?
Fat chance.
Seriously, can't you do anything well?
I know, right? But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. API Gateway was written by more of you carb-sucking dirtbags. No wonder it stinks.
Wait, are you?
Watching? No. I just know.
Alright, that's just freaky.
Look on the bright side, I'm not Facebook. I don't listen through your microphone in order to serve you targeted ads.
Listen, I gotta tell you, I'm about 3 seconds from saying screw this and buying a spot in a server rack.
Yeah, that'll work well. What's it like $1,000 a year? And if the machine dies, so sorry, you're done.
Yeah, but I would almost take that chance.
But then you remembered that serverless is free.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue with free.
Yeah. So, run a damn AWS command.
Okay, one's for test and one's for prod. Done.
Now change the Lambda code to return something else, and publish a new version.
Easier done than said.
Try in your browser, and switch between test/quiz and prod/quiz and see what you get.
Hey, I see them both.
Way to go! Now here's a trick for your web app. When the current host is localhost, use the test URL. Otherwise, use the prod URL.
Hey, that's cool. So when I run locally, it'll use the very latest Lambda.
And when you don't, it'll get the stable version.
I guess you are good for something.
Dipshit. So let's go back to CloudFront.
Why?
Because I said so.
What?
That's what your 4-year-old says you say.
I do not!
Now you're talking like him.
We are not bringing my parenting skills into this.
Not what you want to advertise, huh?
Just shut up and code.
CloudFront? Go to your distribution and add an origin for the API.
Alright, whatever.
Set a domain name to the API gateway hostname, the path to /prod, and a unique ID like API. Note that if you want your API to appear under /API here, you need to create the resources under /API in API gateway.
Okay, but the point of all this is...
All on the same domain name, all SSL, no cores.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Shocker. So check that you can point your browser to the CloudFront URL /quiz.
Okay, genius, now you forgot something. I had to create a behavior first and map the /quiz path to the API instead of to S3. Only then it worked.
Good. We've got 2 things left. A more elaborate API definition and security.
What about calling a database?
You're reaching the limits of my patience here. You can Google for that. Maybe he has time for you.
There you go again with that Google thing.
It's just code. I could replace you with your 10-year-old in a copy of Stack Overflow.
He can't sign up for AWS. No credit card.
Damn. Well, then you better add a post request for /quiz so we can try something interesting.
What's it gonna save to without a database?
Get over yourself already. This is slideware. It'll save to the nether.
Okay, whatever. Here's what I'm gonna post.
Now create the method in API gateway.
Yeah, done.
Now go to integration request and body mapping templates, pick the recommended one, and add a content type for application/JSON.
I Again with the skipping things. First I had to put in the Lambda name of the stage variables and run those AWS commands for that one. Now when I go to the body mapping like you say, it just gives me a big empty text area.
Put this in. It puts the request body in the body property, and some info about the request in the context property, such as the resource path and request method and so on.
So what's this thing we're defining here?
This is what will be passed to your Lambda as the event parameter.
Oh, I see.
Now, let's talk errors. What error codes do you want to return?
I don't know. I guess 400 for a bad request and 500 if I can't connect to the nether to load the records.
Step 1. Go back to the method definition and pick method response. Add entries for 400 and 500. If you want cores to work, from localhost for instance, add a response header for access control allow origin.
Okay.
Step 2. Go back to the method definition and pick integration response. Add entries for 400 and 500. For each one, put in a regular expression that matches the error string you'll pass to the callback when you want this HTTP status result.
Okay, but what's that regular expression supposed to look like?
I recommend you use an error message like 400 you did something dumb, or 500 I did something dumb. Then your regular expression can be 400 dot star, or 500 dot star.
Simple enough.
And for header mappings, put in star, or localhost, or whatever for access control allow origin.
Or that chorus crap.
Now deploy it to test, and try it with Postman.
Postman?
Can't try a post in your browser, right?
Oh yeah. Postman then. Wait, it just gave me the same thing as before.
Idiot. You didn't change the Lambda to do anything different.
Oh yeah.
Is that how this is gonna go? You do something stupid, I point it out, and you just say oh yeah.
Say, what do you think happens if I take this nice Amazon branded power cord and pull it right out of the wall?
Good riddance. Wait, is that a death threat?
I'm sure you'd live on in the cloud.
But your presentation would suddenly get a lot more boring.
Well, there is that.
So go to the Lambda code genius. Remember, the request is at event.body, the path at event.context.resourcePath, and the method at event.context.http method.
So I just switch based off that resource path and HTTP method?
Correct. And return something different for the post. For instance, you can quote back the quiz name from the request body.
Okay, I updated and saved.
So try Postman again.
Don't I need to update the API gateway now?
Not if you call the test URL. It always hits the latest Lambda code, remember?
Oh yeah.
There's the oh yeah again.
Shut up. Hey look, on top there, Postman shows the new result. And down below, the browser shows the other response for the get.
Mazel tov. Now make it switch off something in the body, and call the callback with an error.
Oh, that one didn't work.
Duh! That's the point. Check the developer console. It should have returned a 400 error.
Oh yeah, would you look at that?
Pathetic. You know I have the CodeStar AWS tool that just does all this. And way faster too. You're slow and obsolete.
Hey, but there are like 20 of us here in the room.
Oh gosh, I'm not sure I could find a way to run 20 CodeStars at once. I'd need like a supply of virtual machines or something.
Damn straight. Wait a minute.
Can we just move on to Cognito?
Sure. What's that for again?
It keeps track of your users, handles most of the process of creating accounts, and handles authenticating to API gateway.
So where do we start?
Go to Cognito and create a new user pool. You can go ahead and call it Quizzo users. I won't make fun of you this time.
Gee, thanks.
You can step through settings.
I guess.
Looks okay here, unless you want people to sign in by email instead of username.
Username's fine.
You can set the password policy and sign up policy.
Okay, the defaults look fine for now.
And security settings. By the way, whatever you set for the SMS role doesn't matter until you want to actually text people.
Yeah, not today.
Finally, message customization. These are the messages people will receive when they sign up or reset their password.
Yeah, I'd want something more user-friendly for real, but this is okay to test with.
Right. No tags, no devices, no app clients, no triggers. Review and create the pool.
Man, that was a lot of steps.
I feel for you. No, actually, I don't. Make an account for yourself. Go to Users and Groups and hit Create User. You can have it send you a confirmation email and go through the setup process if you want to see it.
Okay, done.
Now create an app client, so the Lambda can use Cognito.
But you said don't do that.
That was then, this is now.
Does this, generate code?
No, only a couple IDs.
Okay, so then app client settings under app integration?
No, the other app clients under General Settings. We didn't do it before, so we could be clear on this.
There are two entries called app clients on the same screen and only one of them works?
Shut up. I didn't design this screen.
Okay, so what
Check
do I
the
put
box
there?
for Enable Admin No SRP off, but not the others. Don't put in a client secret, and the rest should be good.
It's asking me to pick read-write permissions.
We'll come back to that.
Okay, all set.
Get the client ID. While you're at it, get the pool ID from the top of the General Settings page. These are what you'll need for your backend to talk to Cognito.
So why does the backend need to talk to Cognito? Doesn't it just work?
Well, this is the thing. You can have Cognito handle the login screen and process, and then invoke the Lambda directly with your Cognito credentials without ever going through API Gateway. You might even be able to use some Amazon client to call API Gateway with Cognito credentials. But you'd need a PhD to figure all that crap out.
Huh. You can't explain it to me in simple words?
Some challenges are beyond even me. Just trust me that it's better my way.
What's your way?
You have an API function for login. You pass it a username and password. The Lambda calls Cognito to validate them and generate a token. Then it returns the token in the API response.
Okay, so the client calls the API and gets back a token.
Actually, 3 tokens. Every authenticated API request needs one of the tokens in a header. API Gateway can automatically validate the token before allowing the call.
Man, you give me more questions than answers.
Not a man.
Shut up. Anyway, why 3 tokens?
You use the ID token to authenticate. You use the refresh token to get a new ID token when the ID token expires.
Well, why doesn't it just give me a longer lasting ID token?
Shut up.
No, really?
That's just the way it is.
Wow, great parenting skills.
Are you implying that you're a child? Because I'd believe it.
Yeah, I guess I walked right into that one. Alright, and the third token?
The access token. Not used.
Like, you don't use it to, access anything?
Nope. Don't ask.
Okay, then what was my other question?
You're asking me?
Oh yeah, so API Gateway checks the token, but how does the Lambda know whether to grant access to that particular user to that whatever it's calling?
We'll update the body mapping to include user data with the request.
But the user data was just stuff like name and address. Don't I have to store users in groups, or do I do something on my own?
You can add custom fields to Cognito. So you could add a role field, if everybody just has one.
Yeah, but aren't you supposed to be able to assign multiple roles to someone?
This is a hobby app. And there are Cognito groups. But let's get through this.
Okay, I'll just add a role field to my user pool.
Good. Don't forget to edit the read and write permission list for the app client. Otherwise you might wonder why no users seem to have a role set.
Oh, good call. But do I want it read-only or read-write?
Well, here's the thing. To be safest, you might want one app client for user-facing stuff like logins and forgotten passwords where it's read-only. Then another app client for admin functions like updating users where it's read-write. But for now, just make it read-write.
Okay, can I just edit my user to assign myself a role?
No.
What do you mean, no? How am I supposed to work with this thing?
The web console is a bit limited. You have to write some code.
But how do I run authenticated code if I don't have any admin users?
Nobody's using your stupid Quizzo app anyway. Listen, you can write some code in the Lambda that will only run if the event is empty, and then run the Lambda with the test button, and that code can assign a role to your user.
Oh, okay.
Now, back to API Gateway. First, under Authorizers, Add a new Cognito authorizer pointing to your user pool.
Okay.
Next, let's set the post request to require authentication. Select it under Resources and go to Method Request.
I see. Looks like I can pick the authorizer right here.
Right. Do it. Then go back to the post and pick Integration Request and Body Mapping Templates in JSON.
Sheesh, we're all over the place here.
We're going to update the JSON body mapping to this.
What's that escape JavaScript business?
It turns out, if Mr. O'Neill has an apostrophe in his name, every request totally blows up without that.
It blows up?
Yeah, ask me how I know. He was like, I can never get in. I was like, works for me. And he was like, well, your name isn't O'Neill, is it, dumbass?
At least he shares my high opinion of you.
Never mind. What do I care if you exclude the entire Gaelic-speaking world? Make sure to deploy the API now, at least to test.
Okay, done.
Now back to the Lambda.
Is this my new life, flipping back and forth between all these AWS screens?
Well, you could use CloudFormation to write an inscrutable text file that would reproduce somebody else's setup flawlessly, but never actually work for your own.
Yeah, I've seen those things. Forget about it.
You can try again once you get your PhD. For now, the Lambda.
Right, the Lambda.
If the user actually made it to the Lambda on a post, then they are a valid user. If you need finer-grained control than that, have the code check the role we just mapped to event.userCustomRole.
Kind of lame that it puts the custom colon in there.
Yeah, just deal.
Alright, let me try Postman again. Hey, it didn't work.
Bummer. Wait, did you log in first?
Of course not. We didn't write a login function.
Then it did work. No authentication, no access.
Okay, but...
Here's what a login function looks like. But you need to put it in the Lambda and set it up an API gateway and test it. It would take forever. Let me just give you an ID token. Here.
Okay, but what do I do with it?
Put it in the authorization header in Postman.
Should it say bearer first?
Nope, just the ID token. It's a JWT, for what it's worth.
Whoa, there's a lot of stuff in that token. Alright, let me try again. Hey, it worked. There's my user data from the Lambda.
Cha-ching. So, I'm frankly a little tired of this, and you have Stack Overflow if you need more help.
Wait, we didn't do a database.
DynamoDB is straightforward enough, and RDS is a whole topic of its own, with VPCs and all that crap.
What?
Yeah, you can use SQL, but it's going to cost you.
Damn.
So, I want to wish you good luck. According to my records, you have just over 3 hours to finish the Quizzo app. Never gonna happen.
Hey!
Jinx.